Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan. My name is Liaquat Zaman. Hope you guys are having a wonderful time, enjoying your day, enjoying whatever you guys are doing at this time. Whenever you guys are watching this, basically. Right, so Alhamdulillah, shukr to Allah. We have come to the end of the chapter of fasting. This is actually the last lesson of the chapter of fasting, which is Itikaf. And next, we're going to start Hajj. Now I'm thinking, when I start Hajj, shall I kind of like give you a whole summary of Hajj? Or then we start the book? Or shall I, maybe I can do that as a crash course of Hajj. And then I can give you guys that. And then, I don't know, I'm just in two minds at the moment. So I thought I'd ask you guys, what do you guys think? Leave it in the comments below. Right, so, like I said, my name is Liaquat Zaman. This is my Roots of Knowledge YouTube channel. If you guys are not familiar with it, I dedicate this channel to teaching you guys about Islam, Arabic, and everything that comes with it, inshallah. Right, so this series is dedicated to explaining to you guys Fiqh, which is from the Madhab, the Hanafi school. And we have reached up to chapter of Itikaf. So here are some questions for you guys. What does Itikaf literally mean? What does a person need to do to perform Itikaf? What is an optional Itikaf? What's the Sunnah Itikaf? What can't you do in Itikaf? Can you eat in a mosque? Can you leave the mosque anytime you want? If a person intends to do 5 days Itikaf, can he go home at night? Alright, so let's have a look at this. Now, first of all, as you guys know, it's 3 parts. First of all, I explain to you guys the meanings of words, and then I do a little bit of i'rab and tarkib, and then explain the masala. Itikaf literally means to stay. That's what it literally means. اعتكف معناه يعني بقي في مكان. Mustahab, as you guys know, you should know that by now. Al-lubth, lubth means to stay in a place. لبث يلبث, لبثت, لبث يلبث. في المسجد, and then you got what, meaning sexual intercourse. And it's actually what with the hamza there. Okay, I don't know, the hamzas kind of fall off or something. Yeah, it's supposed to be the ya kind of hamza. Lams means touch. Qubla means to kiss. Anzala, it means to have an orgasm or ejaculation. Qubla, it's a kiss. Lams, we done that. Fasada, yafsudu, means to become void or corrupted, nullified. I'tikaf, you know that. Alayhi al-qada, okay. Haja, it's a need, something that you need. And then you've got, what the words are here? Okay, Jum'ah, you know what that is, Friday. Yabi'u ba'a, yabi'u, it means to sell. Ibta'a, yabta'u, it means to buy. And then you've got ahdara yuhdiru, it means to bring or present. And then sila is the jama' of sil'atun, which means goods for sale. Yatakallam, takallama, yatakallamu, it means to speak. Bikhair, it means good. Yukrahu, kariha, yakrahu, kuriha, yukrahu, majhul. Samt, silence. Man samata, najah. Okay. Jama'a, yujami'u, mujama'atan, means sexual intercourse. That's another word for what? Al-mu'takif is the guy who is performing Itikaf. Laylan, you know that. Naharan, you know that. Nasiyan, forgetful, forgetting. Amidan, deliberate. Batala yabtulu, it means to void, to make nullified. You got sa'a, which means moment. Udhr means excuse. And then you've got, what else have you got here? Mutatabi'atan, it means consecutively. One after the other. Yeah, one after this. From the word tabi'a. And then you got tatabu, which also has the same meaning as well. Alright, let's look a bit at the tarkib then. Okay, so هذا باب الاعتكاف. Right, so الاعتكاف مستحب. So اعتكاف, you got, it's the mubtada. مستحب is the khabar. وهو is the mubtada. اللبث is the khabar. And then you got في المسجد مع الصوم ونية الاعتكاف مضاف مضاف إليه. And then you got ويحرم حرم يحرم, which means to become haram. And that becomes the fi'l. على المؤتكف جار مجرور. الوطء, this is the معطوف عليه. Remember this is معطوف عليه and it's the fa'il, okay. واللمس is the عطف معطوف. All these are معطوفs. They all become the فاعل of يحرم. أنزل ينزل إنزال بقبلة جار مجرور. لمس جار مجرور. فسد اعتكافه is فعل فاعل. Then you've got عليه القضاء. عليه الخبر مقدم وقضاء مؤخر. لا يخرج فعل. المؤتكف is the فاعل من المسجد جار مجرور إلا لحاجة الإنسان جار مجرور مضاف إليه أو للجمعة جار مجرور. لا بأس لا نفي الجنس. بأن يبيع ويبتاع فعل فاعل ويبتاع فعل فاعل. في المسجد من غير مضاف. أن يحضر أحضر يحضر. السلعة فعل فاعل أن مفعول به سلعة. ولا يتكلم إلا فعل فاعل إلا بخير جار مجرور. ويكره is مجهول له. and then الصمت is the نائب فاعل. فإن جامع يجامع مجامعة. Right, that becomes the فعل. and مؤتكف is the فاعل. ليلا is مفعول فيه. Right, ظرف. نهارا مفعول فيه as well. ناسيا and عامدا is حال. Both of these are حال. Okay, حال. بطل يبطل فعل فاعل. ولو خرج is فعل من المسجد جار مجرور. ساعة so ساعة can be like وقت مفعول فيه. بغير مضاف إليه. فسد فعل اعتكافه فاعل عند أبي حنيفة. وقال لا يفسد فعل فاعل حتى جار يكون is hidden. أن يكون أكثر من نصف يوم so مضاف إليه. ومن أوجب فعل أوجب يوجب إيجاب to make something واجب. على نفسه اعتكاف مضاف إليه becomes مفعول به. لزمه فعل اعتكاف is the فاعل. بلياليها وكانت متتابعة خبر. ولم يشترط التتابع فيها. it can be يشترط التتابع فيها. Okay, so let's have a look at the masail. So what is happening over here? So basically, masala is like this. A masjid. Now, a masjid is defined by the people who are in charge of it. They define the limits, the boundaries of the masjid. So there might be like a big building, but all of it is not a masjid. Right? So just like many of the mosques you've probably been to, the entrance is not the masjid, or maybe the veranda might not be the masjid, or maybe the staircase might not be the masjid. Right? The masjid is the location that's allocated inside that building for the prayers. Right? So this is and you can only do i'tikaf in there. Okay, you can't do i'tikaf in the hallway or in the corridor or on the stairs or anything like that, which is not part of the masjid. So inside the masjid, this guy is sitting there and he's doing i'tikaf. Right? So هذا باب الإعتكاف. This is the chapter of i'tikaf. Now this guy is not allowed to leave this place. Okay, he's got to literally stay there. The idea of i'tikaf is you kind of like cut yourself off from the whole world and you link yourself up with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's basically what it is. Right? So you have to cut yourself off from the world. And this is something, I don't know if you guys have done it, but it's really beneficial. It really kind of gives you a spiritual boost, and men can do it, women can do it as well. Alright, so i'tikaf, there's about 3 types of i'tikaf that people can do, right? So you got this kind of optional i'tikaf, right? Optional i'tikaf, and then you got obligatory i'tikaf, and then you got sunnah i'tikaf. Optional i'tikaf can be 2 types. One is where you simply just go to a mosque and you literally just sit there for a minute, 2 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, however long you guys want to sit in the mosque for. You can, and that's just like kind of called staying in the mosque. There's no specific rules regarding that, right? I mean, besides, you shouldn't be talking about worldly matters and messing around the mosque, desecrating the sanctity of the mosque. No, but you can sit there for as long as you like. So whenever you go to the mosque, you're literally doing this kind of optional i'tikaf. Then the second type of optional i'tikaf is where you decide to stay in the masjid for an entire 24 hours, right? So day and night. And that's where rules apply. Now, once you start that, it kind of becomes obligatory upon you to complete it. Right? So it's one of those kind of ones. All right. So if you just sit in the mosque as long as you want, that's just a normal optional kind of like Itikaf, just sitting in the mosque. Right? That's just the optional kind of thing that you can do. But it's not necessary for you to do that. The obligatory one is usually if you start an optional fast, it becomes obligatory to complete. And or if you make a vow that if I pass my exams, I'm going to do an Itikaf, then that becomes your like vowed Itikaf. Right. And then you got the third type, is the Sunnah Itikaf. The Sunnah Itikaf is the one that occurs in the end of Ramadan, for the last 10 days of Ramadan. It's something with the Prophet ﷺ would do nearly every year when he was in Medina. So you just stay there for 10 days and night and day. And you eat there, you drink there, and you only leave for your basic needs. Right, it's for the 10 days. It's called the Sunnah Muakkada one. Right, if you know, not everyone has to do it, but in every community, a small group of people have to do it. All right, so let's have a look at this. So Bab al-I'tikaf. This is the chapter of I'tikaf. I'tikaf is mustahab, is considered recommended, meaning it's recommended for you to do, but once you start it, you have to complete it. And in the community, as long as one person or so does that Ramadan one, the rest don't have to do it. It's like a communal obligation. Wahuwa, and so this guy's there. Wahuwa, and it is al-labthu, which is, or lubthu, staying, number one, fil masjidi, number two, ma'asomi, you have to fast. Yeah. So you're going to have to fast. If you want to do the itikaf, you basically have to fast whilst you do itikaf. Wa niyatul itikaf, and you have to have the intention that you're staying in the mosque. So you can't just be like something random. You just went inside the mosque and you went to sleep in there, and for a whole day, you don't get the virtue of doing an itikaf, right? Because you kind of didn't intend to do itikaf. Okay, so it's got to be one of those ones. So these are three things over here then. Staying in the mosque, right? So therefore you can't do itikaf outside of a mosque. Now women are allowed to do itikaf in the mosque, and women are also allowed to do itikaf, according to the Hanafis, in their home as well. So they allocate themselves a room, like their bedroom or something, and they do the same things that we're going to be talking about today. They do the same inside that bedroom, right? Or whichever room they select in the house. They stay there. They don't leave there unless it's like a really dire need. All right, so Sawm and Niyat al-Itikaf. Okay, so this is the vow one, this is the Ramadan one. In fact, if I was to say that these two are the ones that require the fast, I would be correct. Right? And the optional one, meaning if you just enter a mosque, you don't need to enter the mosque with the fast. But if you decide to do an itikaf, then you're going to have to. Right, so then he says, وَيَحْرُمُ عَلَى الْمُعْتَكِفِ. Okay, so what things can't you do in itikaf? Remember, you're in a mosque, aren't you? Right, and you got to kind of like fulfill these kind of rules. So number one is no sexual intercourse in the mosque. Allah clearly says in the Quran, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. Do not have intimacy with your wives or with them whilst you are in the masjid. Right, so it kind of like breaks the sanctity of the mosque as well, because mosque is supposed to be a place where you worship Allah, and sexual intercourse is a kind of like human need, and it should not be done inside the masjid. So number two is no sexually touching one another, right? Fondling one another inside the masjid. And number three is no kissing. Now, if a person touches or kisses inside the mosque, the i'tikaf will not be spoilt. But if they have sexual intercourse, then the i'tikaf will become nullified, like we're going to mention. So number four is you can't leave the mosque, right? You're not allowed to leave the mosque unless there is a valid reason. Okay, so وَيَحْرُمُ is considered impermissible al-mu'takif, upon the guy doing itikaf. Al-wat, sexual intercourse. Wal-lamsu, touching, meaning touching sexually. Wal-qublatu, and kissing. وَإِنْ أَنزَلَ, right, and if he was to have an ejaculation, right, so بِقُبْلَةٍ, due to the kissing or due to the touching, فَسَدَ i'tikafuhu, his i'tikaf would become nullified. Okay, so, I mean, if, however, he had a wet dream, then the i'tikaf is still intact, right? Because he didn't do anything physically to kind of cause that. And he's got to do qada. Alayhi al-qada. Right, so if I was to write this down here, these three over here, if it results in orgasm, then it's going to obviously, nullify, void the i'tikaf. Okay, so, like we said, alayhi al-qada, he's got to do qada. وَلَا يَخْرُجْ. Okay. Now, leaving the mosque, we're going to talk about that in a bit. Right? So, we'll talk about it now. So, leaving the masjid. When we say leaving the masjid, you cannot leave the masjid unless it's like a human need or like a religious need. Right? So, what could a human need be? Going toilet, eating, drinking. You have to get yourself food from the shop maybe. You have to get yourself drink if there's no one to get it for you. And obviously go toilet, take a bath maybe. If you have to leave the masjid, which in most cases you are going to have to, then it won't spoil your itikaf. Alright? But if you leave without a reason, then it will. In fact, if you have to leave the masjid to do some religious duty, so for example, like you got to leave the masjid to go for Jum'ah because that masjid doesn't have Jum'ah. Maybe there's Jum'ah in another mosque. So then you can leave for that. But you can't leave to go work or something like that. Right? That wouldn't be permissible. That itikaf would not be valid. Alright, so imagine this is the location, this is the place, this is our friend. You can't go there, you can't go there, you can't go there. But to kind of fulfill his human needs, like go to the toilet is the biggest one, then he's allowed to leave the masjid because you can't defecate in the masjid or urinate in the masjid. Right? And going for Jummah as well. So going for Jummah if there is no Jummah in that mosque. Now some of them also add things like, what if a person was like in danger, the mosque was about to collapse, there's something like that, or their life was in danger, then they can leave the mosque for that reason. Okay, so Jummah and going to the toilet and all that. Right, but eating and drinking, they have to bring their food in the masjid and eat it there. لا يخرج المعتكف. Mu'takif, the guy doing itikaf, and this applies to a woman if she's doing it in the masjid or at home. Men can't do it at home. لا يخرج المعتكف. The mu'takif person cannot leave من المسجد, this guy from the masjid, إلا لحاجة إنسان, unless it's for a حاجة الإنسان, like a human need, and I described to you what human need is. Or للجمعة, or for the Jummah, Friday prayer. Now, a guy obviously, if there is Jummah taking place in this masjid, then he's not allowed to go to another mosque for Jummah. Right, he's going to stay in his own mosque. ولا بأس. Okay, what kind of things can he do in the masjid? Right, well, you'd probably be surprised at this, but he's allowed to buy and sell in the masjid. So he can talk in the masjid, right, number one. But it has to be things that are not like worldly things. You can't talk about too many worldly things or backbite or any sin. Number two, he is allowed to sleep in the masjid, right? Because that's obviously what he's gonna have to do that. He can eat in the masjid, he can drink in the masjid, he can buy in the masjid, he can sell in the masjid, right? All these kind of things. So buying and selling without bringing the goods to the mosque. Like if he's selling cows, he's not gonna bring the cow to the mosque, yeah. Or he's selling laptops, he's not gonna bring the laptops. He's gonna do. And nowadays, a lot of people may have sort of like online websites where they buy and sell things. So they can continue doing those whilst in the masjid as well. Now in the masjid, once you're in the days of itikaf, you can do these kind of things, but try to focus most of your time in things that will bring you closer to Allah. Right, like tilawa, dhikr, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so wala ba'sa, there's nothing wrong بأن يبيع, that person sells, or yabta, and he buys fil masjid, inside the mosque itself. Min ghayri, without, and yuhdira, that he presents the sila, goods. Right, so just that. Next, ولا يتكلم, nor is he allowed to speak إلا بخير. So in other words, he can't speak except good. Meaning, obviously, lying is haram, backbiting is not haram, and things like that. In the masjid, he should kind of like utilize his time, make his time productive inside the masjid. Right, so good talk about the religion, give da'wah, maybe even like write a book, or maybe even just like talk to someone about. You can talk to someone, how's the day, what's happening, is everything okay, like that's fine. But then to go too much into worldly talk whilst in the masjid, this is disliked. It won't nullify your itikaf though. وَلَا يَتَكَلَّمْ إِلَّا بِخَيْرٍ, and he should not speak except with good. Okay. Right, next. He should not remain silent. Okay, saying silent is not an ibadah, by the way. So whilst he's there, he shouldn't like zip his mouth and just stay in the mosque and not talk to anyone. No, he should talk, right? Talk, but make sure your talk is kind of like measured, balanced. Right, next. What if the guy, remember we said before sexual intercourse, right, will nullify your itikaf. What if a guy was to have sexual intercourse, right? So things that are considered to be disliked. So I'll write this down. Silence, just before I forget. Okay, what about sexual intercourse inside the masjid? Now, sexual intercourse, remember in Ramadan, if you remember in fasting, we said that if a person was to have sexual intercourse with their wife in Ramadan, forgetfully, their fast is still intact. But when it comes to Itikaf, if a man was to have sexual intercourse with his wife inside the, obviously, masjid or even outside the masjid, the Itikaf becomes nullified, whether it's at night time or even day. Yeah, it becomes nullified. So whether he does it forgetfully or he does it knowingly, irrespective, his fast becomes nullified. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is he is not allowed to leave the mosque. These are the two things that will literally spoil your itikaf, will mess up your itikaf. Do not do these two things. Leave the masjid without a valid reason, right? If it's a valid reason, it's okay. How long? Is it just like any leaving? Abu Hanifa rahimahullah says for any amount of time. Even if you go out for a few seconds without a valid reason, itikaf becomes nullified, right? And the Sahibain, they say that no, it's actually half a day. So let's say you went out for 2 or 3 hours and you came back. That won't nullify your itikaf. So they're a bit flexible in this. They're much more flexible. Abu Hanifa's position is the one that's taken by majority of the scholars. And they say like half a day. Okay, so for in Jama', if the mu'takif was to have jima', sexual intercourse, laylan, nighttime, or naharan, or in the day, nasiyan, forgetfully, or amidan, deliberately, batala, it becomes nullified. What becomes nullified? Itikaf becomes nullified. Okay. What if a guy was to leave the masjid, walau kharaja, and if a person was to leave min al-masjid, from the masjid, sa'atan, for a short while, like even if it's a few seconds, بغير عذر, without an excuse, without valid excuse, فسد itikaf, his itikaf becomes nullified. عند أبي حنيفة, according to Imam Abu Hanifa. وقال, and they both say, لا يفسد, they say itikaf does not become fasid, حتى يكون أكثر من نصف يوم, until the time is more than half a day, right? So, is it half a day as in 12 hours? Is it half a day as in half the daytime? Some texts seem to say daytime, some texts seem to say half day. But anyway, if we were to take half a day, 12 hours, as long as he hasn't gone out for more than 12 hours, then the itikaf is still valid, they say. Right. Next. Last masala. So, let me zoom this in. Right. Okay. Alright, so now, remember we said optional fast, optional itikaf. If a person starts an optional itikaf, it becomes necessary, isn't it? Okay. Now, if a person says, I am going to fast on Tuesday, that means he's got to fast in the day and the night as well. Yeah, so the day and night are both together, part and parcel. Right, so if you say you're going to fast on the day, it means you have to fast on the night as well, even if you didn't mention it. And if you say I'm going to fast 5 days, then you have to fast all 5 days, one after the other. Right? So that's the kind of like condition. So if you say I'm going to fast 10 days, it means you have to fast 10 days, one after the other. If I say, if I pass my exams, I'm going to fast 3 days. Sorry, I keep saying fast. I'm going to do itikaf, sorry guys, itikaf. If I pass my exams, I'm going to do itikaf for 3 days. That means I'd have to do them one after the other. Right? Unless I explicitly said, I'm going to fast 1 day on Monday, 1 day on Thursday, 1 day on, Sunday. So, man awjaba, whoever makes necessary upon themselves. Yeah. Now, okay, let me draw this out for you guys. So it makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. So let's say a person is fasting the itikaf. He says, I'm going to fast 10 days if I pass my exam. He literally will have to fast them one after the other. Right? That's how he's going to have to do them. Now, let's say a person nullifies one day, like the day 7. He's nullified it. On day 7, he left the mosque or had sexual intercourse, etc. What's going to happen? Does he have to restart all of them? No, he doesn't. So all he has to do is that particular day, he has to do qadha for that later on. That becomes void. And later on, he does qadha for that particular day. Right? And that's it. That's how it's done. Very, very easy, guys. Yeah, look at that. Okay. So, وَمَنْ أَوْجَبَ, whoever makes wajib, necessary, عَلَى نَفْسِهِ, upon himself, اعتكاف أيام, اعتكاف of days, لَزِمَهُ, then it becomes necessary on him, اعتكافها, its itikaf, the itikaf of those days, bilayaliha, with its nights. وَكَانَتْ مُتَتَابِعَةً, and they will be consecutive one after the other without missing a day. وَإِن لَمْ يَشْتَرِطْ التَّتَابُعَ فِيهِ, even if he did not stipulate that he's going to do them one after the other. As long as he said, I'm going to do 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, he's going to have to do them one after the other. There you have it. Those are all of today's masalas. So just to recap, we covered the masala of what does itikaf mean, staying in the mosque. We talked about what types of itikaf, optional, obligatory, sunnah. And we talked about what things can't you do in itikaf. And we said you can't sexual intercourse, sexual touch, kiss, can't leave the mosque. What can you do in the mosque? You can talk, you can sleep, you can buy and sell, but don't bring the goods and just talk good. And what about leaving the mosque? Can you leave the mosque? Well, you can leave if it's a human need, like going toilet, eating, drinking, etc., to get food. Or if it's like a religious need. So for example, if there's no other place that does Jummah, except for this one mosque, you have to go to that one mosque. And it's disliked to be silent. And what if a man has sexual intercourse deliberately or forgetfully? Then his fast becomes nullified. And Abu Hanifa says if you leave the mosque for any duration of time, fast becomes nullified if it's without a reason. Sahibain say it has to be more than half a day. That exhausted me there. Right, so let's have a look at the questions, guys, and see what you guys made of all this. Do you guys like this way I do? Yeah, you enjoy it? Is there anything that you would like me to change in these? Please let me know. Some of you guys I know do not like the Arabic side, the tarkib and nahu, grammar side. You just like the masail. Some of you guys like the grammar side. So let me know, inshallah. Questions. What does itikaf literally mean? You guys know? It means to stay. What does a person need to do to perform itikaf? So remember, I said 3 things. Stay in a mosque, he's got to fast, and he's got to have intention of itikaf. What is an optional itikaf? Optional itikaf can either be you stay in the mosque for any time you want, and that's not really itikaf. And the second one is where you intend to stay there as itikaf, then you've got to stay day and night. Then it becomes necessary to complete. What's the sunnah itikaf? Sunnah itikaf is to do itikaf the last 10 days of Ramadan, like the Prophet ﷺ did. What can't you do in itikaf? You can't kiss, you can't touch sexually, and you can't have, obviously, sexual intercourse. And you can't leave the masjid. Can you eat in a mosque? Yes, you can. As long as you don't throw crumbs around and make the place smell. Yeah, please don't. Can you leave the mosque? No, you can't leave the mosque. Unless you have a valid reason, a human need, or you've got to go for some religious duty like Jummah. If a person intends to do 5 days itikaf, can he go home at night? Answer is, no, you can't. It's got to do the days and night as well. Okay, and that's it, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson today. I know it's a bit long. Thank you very much for watching this video. Really, really means a lot to me when you guys leave me comments and you guys give me a like. Yeah, that kind of, what's it called? Dopamine, rush I get in my brain. And also, thank you to all my patrons. You guys are wonderful, lovely people. May Allah bless all of you guys for your kind generosity. You know, you guys love my channel. I love you guys. And it means a lot to me, honestly, because without you guys, you know, these kind of videos wouldn't be something that I'd be able to make on a regular basis. That's the honest truth. And if any of you guys want to become patrons and you like the work I do and you want to support my channel and you want to get sadaqah jariyah as well with all the people who watch my videos and act upon them, you know, I get reward inshallah and you guys will get reward as well. Then please check out the links below. And even if you pay £1 a month, even that will go a long way as well. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much. I will see you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.